Did you know that healing involves healthy grieving? I came across this meme on social media that completely inspired me, and I wanted to share it with you. It said, ironically, when we start to get better, we also often get sad because we start to realize how much we've missed out on and how badly certain people have failed us, what the younger version of us actually deserved. Healing involves healthy grieving. It's helpful to realize that grief is a part of healing, and that is okay. What is grief? Grief is the pain of the mind produced by loss, misfortune, injury, evils of any kind, sorrow, regret. We experience grief when we lose a friend, when we incur a loss, when we consider ourselves injured. And by sympathy, we feel grief at the misfortune of others. So with that definition, grief shows up in so many places in our life, but specifically in the context we're applying it to is trauma, loss, divorce, and relationships in general. It's important to realize that grief is a part of healing. Now, I have a relationship with one of my parents that has never and will never look the way I want it to. And a wise counselor and friend said to me, you know, Alicia, it's okay to grieve that. It's okay to grieve for the fact that that relationship is never going to be what you want or need it to be. And I've carried that with me for years and years. And when that relationship comes up and I'm sad that the support isn't there, or I'm sad that the connection isn't there, or I'm sad that that relationship is never going to support my needs, I allow myself to grieve. And I allow for that grief to be okay, even if it's just for a moment or an afternoon or even an entire week. And you know, if a partnership relationship doesn't look the way we want it to, we can work on it. We can make changes. We can even end that relationship and look for another one. But there's certain relationships that can't ever really be replaced. If you don't have a mother or father who showed up for you in your life, or because of their own pain or trauma or mistreatment, and they are never going to be able to develop into a healthy person that shows up for you and supports you. It just is. While you can have other father figures in your life and you can have other mother figures in your life, that doesn't replace the other relationship. And it is okay to grieve for that. That perspective can be applied to any of our relationships with children, grandparents, extended family. It's healthy to know that you're not alone in that grief. You can't fix it. You can't change it. You can't make it better. And it is not your responsibility to do any of those things. There are some things in life that just are what they are due to other people's choices. So now that we've talked about what grief is and sometimes how it shows up in our life, what are the steps to the grieving process? Now, I want to start off with saying grief is not linear. I'm sure you've seen different pictures or images with the stages of grief. We're going to throw those stages of grief up on the screen here, and you'll see that on the one side, there's this fun little V shape that makes grief look linear. And you can see on the right-hand side, my perspective of what grief really looks like. And you know, it's important to note that not everything you grieve about includes all these stages. And it's definitely not a one and done situation. It does not look like mile marker posts where you touch each stage of grief one time and then move on. These are all just guidelines to support you and your journey of healing and hope. I would caution you to not take any clinical or psychological process, perspective, or theory and apply it carte blanche to your life. These guidelines are helpful, but they're not your roadmap. Evaluate what resonates for you, what works for you, apply it to your life, and then just gracefully pass by the stuff that doesn't apply. So when it comes to talking about the stages of grief, there is shock and denial. This can't be happening to me. There is disorder. I just can't. I can't make sense of it. There's anger. Why me? There's guilt and bargaining. Only things had been different. If only I had done things differently. There's distress. That could look like I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't focus. There's depression that comes from the loss, whether it's the loss of the relationship, the loss of the feelings of safety, the loss of future hopes and dreams that will never be. Then there's loneliness. There's feelings of being detached and separated from the life that you had, from the life you thought you were going to have. You may feel isolated, like you're the only one going through this pain. Then there is withdrawal, which is I give up. It just is what it is. And then finally moving to the place of acceptance, of I can't change it. In the therapeutic world, there is a term or phrase known as radical acceptance. You radically accept those things that you can't change. You recognize that it just is what it is. And then you can make choices from that place of acceptance. I'm not here to tell you what your grief journey needs to look like or should be. I think should is equivalent to a 4-letter word. It's like shoulding on yourself. Should or supposed to keeps us stuck in a place of judgment. We cannot judge ourselves and love ourselves at the same time. Shoulding on ourselves keeps us stuck in judgment and unable to grow. So if you've been in a place of shoulding on yourself regarding the grief process, here are some steps to help you in your healing journey as you manage the mourning process. There will be times when you think, man, I thought I worked through this, but recognize that losses don't ever truly go away. They just change the space they take up in our life, and that's okay. And there's no timetable on that. Step number 1, to support you in managing your mourning process. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge where you're at. Acknowledge the mess, that there's nothing wrong with you or with the way that you're handling the grief. There are so many things that we certainly cannot control. Let it be okay that you are at where you are at. Number 2, recognize the importance of grieving. There's something that Jonathan compares this to that I just love the way he puts it. Think of grieving like using the bathroom. There's nothing wrong with grieving. We all need to do it. We all have emotions. We all have feelings. There is nothing wrong with using the bathroom. In fact, we need to. What would happen if you refuse to go to the bathroom? What's going to happen? The need to relieve yourself is going to become uncontrollable. If you choose not to relieve yourself on a regular basis, and you just hold it in, you are going to get to a point where you won't be able to hold it in anymore. You are going to create a mess all over somewhere. Think about healthy grieving like an emotional hygiene process. It is necessary. It is something we all need to do. And if you hold it in and if you try to bury it or become emotionally constipated, it'll get to the point where it's something you can't control and it just comes out all at once, creating a mess. So if your emotional hygiene grieving process looks like crying, cry it out. If it looks like going to the gym and lifting weights or putting on boxing gloves, do that. And if you don't shed any tears, that doesn't mean you're not grieving. It just takes a different form for you. Whatever your personal mourning process takes, let it pour through you and allow yourself the time and the space to experience it. On that note, number 2 is allowing time and space for yourself. It's a myth that time heals all wounds and that the grieving process takes a certain amount of time. There is no exact formula, and it's not something that has an expiration date or something you just get over. Give yourself the time and space for grieving whenever and whatever form it takes. Sometimes you'll have a great day, and that's not anything to feel guilty over. Celebrate when you feel like celebrating. Be normal when you feel like being normal, and be sad when you're sad. If the grief is from a major loss in your life, like the death of a spouse or a child or a close family member, it isn't something that you ever stop grieving. That grief just takes a different shape in your life. And if your grief isn't as huge as the loss of a close loved one in your life, that doesn't mean that it's not important. That doesn't mean that it's not actual grief. You can grieve for the loss of innocence, for missed opportunities, for not standing up for yourself, or for not showing up for yourself the way you wanted to in past experiences. It can also be the grief of never having the close or meaningful relationship that you would like to have with a parent, family member, or child. Number 3 is to practice self-care. Here are some self-care ideas and why they're helpful. This could look like taking a bath or enjoying a hot tub. Did you know that warm water actually triggers your parasympathetic nervous system, which helps you to be calm and relaxed? Reconnect with nature. Go on a hike, take a walk, go in your backyard and walk around barefoot in the grass. This has a powerful grounding effect on your mind and your body. Exercise. Release feel-good hormones in your body. Eat nourishing food. So much of what you eat either supports your mental health or weighs it down. And so supporting yourself through nourishing foods Particularly fruits and vegetables that are yellow or orange in color have the nutrition that your body needs during a time of grief and depression. Number 4, surround yourself with support during your grief. This could look like talking with trusted friends, family members, a counselor, in-person or online support groups. You are not alone, though oftentimes grief can feel isolating. Reach out and keep reaching out until you find the support and guidance that you need. Not to get over your grief, but to learn to have peace and joy even though there is grief. What has helped you go through the mourning process? What helps you when you're grieving? Please share with us in the comments below. And will you do me a favor? If this video has been helpful for you, will you share it with a loved one that could also use this support? And remember to keep shining. We need your light. Check out this next video. What is sexual abuse in a relationship?